Hello, and welcome to my show. Hi, I'm Evelyn Furness, and this is my life. And oh Lord, can I start over again? Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. I'm new at this, and I get tongue tied sometimes. But this is my show, and I hope you enjoy it. Up until now, the last 2 weeks, I have been talking about more topics about things that are in general. My sister, for one, and other things. Today, I thought I'd switch it up a little bit. Now, I grew up with a lot of pets, cat pets. Never really. I only had one dog, and he's another story altogether. But I had cats. As long as I can remember, we always had cats, and I'm a big cat lover. The running thing is that except for one cat, most all our cats were always black and white. I don't understand, but that's just the kind that we always seem to have. Um, Maybe I can't remember if Clarence was or not because he was a long time ago. He was probably the first cat I actually remembered. So okay, on to the stories. Now, like I said, I had cats, and the first one there was Clarence. There was a cat named Mouse. Then we had Harold, and then we had a cat named Cat, or short for Catastrophe, because this cat was always getting into mischief. But let's start with Clarence. Now, we got Clarence. He was lost, and it was a really, really, really cold, stormy night in wintertime. And we found him on our windowsill, and he was cold and hungry. So we brought him in, and we gave him some milk and some food, and let him warm up, and we kept him overnight. Well, it didn't take long to fall in love with this cat. We kept the cat, and she was such a beautiful, beautiful animal. But she had a lot of personality, that's for sure. um, she was she could open up doors. Same with my neighbor cat. The neighbor cat in Tecumseh could also do that. You never knew. You'd wake up in the middle of the night or in the morning, and there's the neighbor's cat in your kitchen. You didn't even question as to how the cat got in there because this is back in the day when we didn't lock our doors, felt safe. So anyhow, we have this cat Clarence, and she really ruled the house, or he ruled the house, I guess. We had one chair. It was one of those round banana kind of chairs. I'm not exactly sure what you call them, but they were round and you could sit in them, and they're really like a basket, very comfy. Well, that was Clarence's chair. So if you were sitting in it and he wanted to sit in with you, he would just climb on, and then next thing you know, you're being slowly pushed out of the chair until you're gone. And so we had her on Tecumseh when we lived there. And then we moved from Tecumseh over to Charleston, Chesley Ave. Now that is just off of Springbank, and we had a great house in there. And this cat was an outdoor cat, so she'd go in and out and in and out. And my dad, one day, he got tired of letting this cat in and out all the time. So he decided to draw a hole in the floor in the kitchen. And it would lead into the basement with a window that he could get in and out of. So that's how the cat got in and out all by itself. And it would work great. It was awesome. He'd be way out in the backyard. My mom would open up a can with a cat food with like your can opener, and boom, that cat would hear it and come quick. Well, when we first moved in there was another cat in the neighborhood who thought that he owned the neighborhood. So on the first day, our cat was stuck up in the tree with the other cat down below. That only happened once because the next day, the other cat was up in the tree, and Clarence was on the bottom. And Clarence ruled the neighborhood from that point on. So anyhow, this one night we decided to go. We'd gone to my aunt's place, I think. I don't know. We came home fairly late, and when we opened up the door, I swear, half of the neighborhood cat, if not all of them practically, were in our house. Clarence had decided he was going to have a party. So he showed all these other cats how to come into the house through this little trap door. It took us an hour to get rid of all the cats because we kept finding them in different locations. And just when we thought we had them all out of the house, I went upstairs to my bedroom and lo and behold, one more cat. I can't remember whether my dad closed up the hole at that point or not, but it was the most hilarious night. And to this day, I will never forget it because I couldn't believe how many cats. And Clarence just sat there like, I don't know where they came from. Not my fault. They just came in here. And that. So, but that was the big story with Clarence. And unfortunately, Clarence, we had moved over to Greenwood Ave, which was only 2 blocks away. And Clarence didn't like the move. It was too close to the other original place. So we lost Clarence. So that was the end of him. And it was too bad because he was a great cat. That leaves on us onward and upward to the next cat. It took a little while to get another one, but we did. Forget how we got it, whether it was probably somebody had found it and gave it to us. That's how we usually got our cats. So this cat was gray. So what do you call a gray cat? Well, mouse. What else would you call the cat but mouse? It was the most appropriate name. And she was a nice cat. I don't really have a lot of stories about her. I do know one thing, that she ended up being pregnant and she gave birth to about 4 or 5 cats or kittens. And we, since her name was Mouse, we decided to name them all Mickey Mouse, Mighty Mouse, you name it, everything was like mouse related to it. Well, the youngest one was the runt of the litter. Last one born, didn't think we were going to make it the night. He turned out to be the head of the pack. He was the first one to be able to climb out of the basket, the first one to walk around the house, the first one to go outside, always the last one to come back in again, of course. And this cat, again, black and white, had quite the personality. So we decided to keep him, but we renamed him Harold. And Harold had another brother. He was a little skinnier than him, but a nice cat. And my brother Alan took him, and he renamed him Sam. And then the 3 kittens we gave away. So, and it didn't take long, unfortunately, for Mouse to go a little crazy. I don't know what she got into, but she got distemper, so we had no choice but to put her down. So that left us with Harold and Sam. And that's when the fun began. Because these 2 kittens were unbelievable. I mean, Alan took his cat home. His cat had quite the meow, the sharper meow. And Harold, if there was anything he could get into trouble with, he did. So we had moved over to this house on Riverside. It was a beautiful old house. It was by itself. It was right across from the Thames River. Where they got Lombardo Bridge, there was that one house that was right by there. And it had all the stonework all around the base of the house. And had a nice, beautiful screened-in front porch. It was gorgeous. That house was amazing. My bedroom was 20 by 20. My walk-in closet was probably the size of one of the pre-apartment bedrooms I was going to have in the future, not knowing that at the time. So that was Harold's room. Nobody was allowed in my room except for Harold. And my mom would come in and she'd go and make the bed. And Harold decided, well, this was playtime for her. So he would climb on the bed and proceeded to help my mom make the bed up by basically, now if she was wearing this house coat that had strings on it, he'd play with the strings while she's making the bed. If she didn't, he would just play underneath the sheet. So you'd have this romp all around while she's trying to put the sheets on. Great fun, a lot of help, okay? At night, he started to do something that would drive me crazy, literally, because every night I'd go to bed and I'd be just about to sleep, And Harold would come in and lie on his back and literally go back and forth to the bottom of my mattress, where I could sort of feel him back and forth, but like, and just as I'm about to go to sleep, he would sneak up and then, with all the claws out, of course, whack me in the butt, sending me flying into the air. Once he did it once, he was happy he could leave, but he had to do this every night. Didn't do it to anybody else, just me. Lucky me. And another time we were there, and Sam had come over. And Sam and Harold, when they got together, they had a blast together. They would chase each other all around the house. They'd run you over. This one time, one went, to this day, I'm not sure which one, but I think it was Sam, I'm not sure. One jumped over this table where there was a nice vase standing there, and we jump over it, and the other cat went underneath, and we're not sure which one, but surprisingly enough, we didn't knock the vase over. Mom was terrified that they would, but they didn't, which is good. Yeah. So so he did this, and he would listen on all the time. One time in the summertime, my brother Alan was going away for a while, and so he came over with Sam and his food, and we were going to look after him for the weekend. Harold was delighted, okay, because if Sam didn't want to go home, he would just hide somewhere until we found him. So he'd come over, and then my brother Morris, he had a small little dog, and he went away, and we took care of him too. So now we have these two cats and this dog in the house. Now, the two cats decided they didn't like this little dog. Sam was allowed in my bedroom, but with this dog, no way. I don't know how many times you hear the dog go, yip, 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 away, because Harold had whacked him on the nose because he was trying to get into my bedroom. Well, by Sunday, they were fed up with this dog, and it was raining. So they stood there and thinking to themselves, do we want to go out in the rain or stay inside with this dumb dog? They decided to go out. So now you see the two of the cats sitting on the ledge of the windows outside in the rain, looking really miserable, but they couldn't come in because of the dog. Thankfully, the dog was gone soon after that, and they were fine. But it was quite the weekend, I can say that for sure. Oh, Harold was something else. Harold went also another time they were over, because Sam came over all the time. Because if Alan came over with no Sam, Harold would have nothing to do with Alan. He had to have Sam with him. And Sam knew when they turned a certain way, he was going to see his big brother, and he was thrilled. So they came over, and it was time to go home. Like I said, he had a tendency to hide. Well, this one time, they were in the house, and it was late, and Alan needed to go home. Do you think we could find Sam? No way. We hunted high and low, everywhere. And Harold is sitting there thinking, look, with a smug look on his face, like, you'll never find him. I know where he is, but you're never going to find him. Well, it didn't. After a while, my dad finally looked in the linen closet, and way in the back of the linen closet was Sam. We finally found him. So he had to go home at that point. But Alan would bring over food that Sam would not eat to our place, and at our place, he'd eat it, but he wouldn't at his own home. No, couldn't do that. And when we lived, we also had him over at Gilwood Boulevard. That's where we had him. I'm not sure where we had him. I think we had him when we had him first on Greenwood. Excuse myself, I have moved a lot. It's hard to keep track of where I lived at each time. So we're on Gilwood Boulevard at this one point, and they're just tiny kittens. And again, Harold was doing that thing up back and forth my bed, of course. Well, this one time, Sam came over, and they were chasing each other up and down the stairs in this townhouse. And you come down the stairs, okay, there was a wall divider that had little holes in it, about maybe 3 by 5 inches deep, big, right? And there was the couch was right on the other side of that, and my dad was sleeping there on his back, and the cats came flying up the stairs. You could hear them. They would hit the wall in my bedroom, then run down the hall to my brother to his, and then land on his chair. It had wheels, so the chair would move. Then they come flying downstairs. And then one time they were doing that, and as they flew down the stairs, they literally went through the room divider. I don't know how they were going at full speed, but they did, both of them, 1, 2, and each one landed on my dad's stomach each at a time, right? All you hear my dad go, ooh, ooh. And then these kitty cats went flying around it and then went downstairs. And my mom had one of those clothes dryers, like you could hang stuff on to dry naturally. And she had one up a clothing rack. So she had one up. And next thing you know, you can hear the thing go falling down because the cat obviously had landed on it. And then it came flying back up the stairs, back up to my bedroom, and all around. And they would do the circuit over and over. And oh my God, it was the funniest thing. Unfortunately, Harold. Oh yeah, there's one other story too that's really hilarious, and that involved back over on Riverside. We had several really tall trees, and if you know anything about blue jays are shit disturbers, to say the least. So Sam had gone up the tree chasing these two birds, and the birds would go up so far and up the tree, and of course Sam would come flying up afterward. Then they'd go down a bit, and Sam would go down. Then they'd go up, and Sam would go up, and they went up and down. And Harold on the ground, looking up at his brother, thinking, you really are an idiot for doing this. And Alan's wife, Selena, came over, and she was so upset. My poor kitty cat's up in the tree, and we're all thinking, yeah, that cat's really dumb. Okay, so finally the cat gave up and jumped off the tree, but it was so funny. Unfortunately, that Harold didn't last too long. He unfortunately got hit by a car on Riverside Drive, unfortunately, which was very, very sad because Harold was such an amazing cat. But, life goes on. And onward and onward. So that left us with the last cat we ever had. And that was a black and white cat. Again, someone had found him in a parking lot, knew he was stranded, so he brought him home, and he wanted to know if we wanted to keep him. Well, as soon as my brother Richard and I saw this cat, we knew we had to keep him because he was so cute. And we named him Cat, short for cat, catastrophe, whatever. Yeah. Because of the different name. We don't pick normal names for our cats, as you can tell. So we had Cat for a long time, and at one point she had gotten pregnant, and you could almost see in the kitchen we had in the kitchen you went down 3 steps to the landing and then out the back door, and we had little ones in the house when my brothers came over because they all had they're starting to have kids of their own, so we had a gate put in there so that we could climb over it, but they couldn't go over it. And Harold Cat would go along and would literally jump over this thing. Well, as he got pregnant, you could almost hear the kitty cats inside saying, "Hey, whoa, watch it, Mom, we're in here." So she finally gave birth to the cats, and my dad saw her in the bedroom. So he quickly got a box, put an old blanket in it, put our cat in it, and brought him into the living room between his feet. And that's where Harold Cat had her babies. She had 3. We had Meanie, Mighty, and Mo. Told you, original names all the way through. Well, these 3 kittens were hilarious. We had a buffet in the kitchen dining area. And it had an area that was very tight to get under, but these 3 kittens could do it. And so they'd come wandering, they go in there, then they go wandering out. And just as they got to the kitchen sink gurgled while the cats went flying back underneath the buffet. And a few minutes later, when they felt it was safe, they come out again very slowly. Damned if they don't get to the same spot, and the kitchen sink gurgled again. Back underneath again. They were great cats, those 3. and we gave them to good homes. And we kept, of course, our cat. And when we moved a couple of times with this cat, we had moved over to get to Greenwood Ave, where we had lived before, across the road this time. And by now it's just myself and my parents at home. And this cat would be very, very protective of all three of us. If one of us got sick, that's where he stayed. Well, one time we all came down with the flu at the same time. Poor cat didn't know where to go. This cat got no rest because he wasn't with one person, he was with the other person, and it just didn't stop. You gotta love a cat like that. And then my dad went away for a weekend to Chicago on a business trip. When he came back, Kat didn't want to make sure he took off again, so he made sure he was with her all the time. But then my mom took off for a little while on a trip. When she came back, now she had two people to worry about because they disappeared. Then I went on a weekend trip. Well, this poor cat. But when I came back, this cat did not leave our side. If we went out to go to the store or for a walk, we had to make sure the cat didn't follow us. Now, my dad had another theory. He would let the cat follow him, and he get about halfway around his trip, and the cat retired, so he would pick him up and walk home the rest of the way, carrying this silly cat, because he was getting a little old at that point. But when we lived on Langarth, that cat, oh my goodness, the things this cat got into, it was insane. We lived in a house that was way back on Langarth. And when you look into my dad's bedroom window, you can see the roof of the garage of the house next door. Well, this one time we had an ice storm, and it was very, very slippery, and the cat was outside and nesting in that. And we looked out, just caught looking out the window on my dad's room, and we noticed our cat on the top of the roof, trying so desperately to hang on for dear life to the roof and climb up. But all you see was this cat going like this. And the cat was slowly going down the ice. And we watched it go all the way down until finally he dropped off the roof. Mom and I are killing her laughing with this stupid cat. Another time on the other side, the house had homing pigeons. And one time our cat didn't come in for the night. We figured, okay, she'll be about all night. We really weren't too worried. But in the morning, we still couldn't find her. And when our neighbor went out to check the birds, lo and behold, our cat had spent the entire night in the pigeon coop on the floor because for some unknown reason, he decided to look in and fell into the chicken coop or pigeon coop, and nobody knew. This cat has spent the entire night in the pigeon coop with all these pigeons, and I can't imagine he had a fun time. Oh boy, I don't think he ever tried that one again either. There's one time Mom was rolling. We had a portable dishwasher, and he literally rolled the thing out and over the tail of this cat. Well, you can hear the cat scream. Never did that again. I swear to God, that cat was something else and spoiled something fierce. I could go on and on and on with stories because we had her a long time, and she probably, besides Harold, was my favorite cat. Just gorgeous. Unfortunately, at one point, we finally had to put her down because she was getting really old and she was not in good health. So we decided to put her down. But those are the stories that we had for our cats. And, I've always been a cat person. I would have one now. I would have 3 of them right now if I could. But between the cost of keeping them healthy, the cost of feeding them, and the fact that I'm trying to get a little bit more to them, I really can't. So I live precariously through everybody else's cats. And I've had people say, oh, my cat won't go talk to you, but they'll talk to me because I think they know just how much I love them. But anyhow, I was going to talk about something else after this, but apparently I've run out of time. So, at that said, I'm going to have to say that's the end of my show. And I hope you enjoyed it. I know if you did, there is a like button down there you can hit. You can subscribe to me, and you can leave comments if you want. I'd love to hear comments from anybody and everybody on my show on how to improve it, topic ideas, you name it. And so, until next week, I'd like you to stay safe, smile, and don't forget to wash your hands. Bye. Mm.